words of our mouths and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our Creator, our Redeemer, and the one who sustains us. Amen. Please be seated. Well, as Reverend Roshni mentioned at the beginning of the service, this is a busy Sunday. We had the Scouts last night, stayed for a sleepover, or as their leaders call it, a stay-over, because I'm not quite sure how much sleeping happened. But they joined us at the 9:15 service for their parade of colors. So it was a really joyous, wonderful, busy service that way. We are marking Jerusalem and the Holy Land Sunday. This is a Sunday that was designated for the 7th Sunday of Easter. It was voted on at General Synod about 10 years ago. And it's a way, as Roshni said, to mark our special connection to the land of the Holy One and to pray for peace there. In our secular world, it is Mother's Day. We will be marking that at the end of the service with a prayer and with flowers for everyone. And in the church year, we are celebrating Ascension Sunday. And both our first lesson and our gospel were about the Ascension story. They are written by the same man, Luke, who wrote both the Gospel according to Luke and the Acts of the Apostles. And so in both of those books, we have a similar story, but with different details in some parts and different holy moments that we can see. And one of the holy moments that I often just kind of glance right past is the way the book of Acts begins. Luke writes, "In the first book, Theophilus, I wrote about all that Jesus did and taught from the beginning until the day when he was taken up to heaven." And I don't know how many times I have read that line and my brain goes, I wonder who that Theophilus was. I'm really curious about who he was. Who is Luke writing this book for? And then I get immersed in the story, and I forget all about poor Theophilus, and I forget to look up who that person is, and I go on to focusing on other holy moments in the story. But not this year. This year, I decided that I would go to Google and I would try and find out who this Theophilus was. And I found a website called the Lectionary Resource for Catholics at wordsunday.com. And this is what they wrote about Theophilus. "We do not know who he was, or if this person even existed. The word Theophilus means friend of God. It is a proper name. It can be a nickname or a title. Because it could mean different things in different contexts, Luke could have been writing to a person or a group of people. Luke could have even been addressing the reader. You or I could be the friend of God to whom Luke writes." And that just kind of blew me away, because it had been sitting there all the time right in front of me. I knew that Theo meant God. I knew that Phyllis meant friend. I had just not put it together as friend of God, that this word meant friend of God. And what a fantastic thing that Luke may have been writing to us as friends of God. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit deeper this morning and to have a chance to have a little dialogue. And I've got a couple of ringers there because they were at the 9:15, but they're not going to be the only ones answering. What I'd like you to think about, first of all, before we try and figure out what it means to be a friend of God, is to think about our human friendships. Because often thinking about the things that we know on earth can help us to then transfer that learning to something that is bigger than earth. So what I'd like you to do is to think about a person or persons who is a good friend to you. And last service, I let the choir off the hook, but I will be asking you as well. But think about the qualities that person has. What do they do? What do they say that you know that they are your friend? And how do you know that you're being a good friend to someone else? So I'll give you a moment to think about that. Then I'll invite the people who are online to unmute, and if anyone wants to share from there. And then I'm going to go to the choir, and then I will go to the congregation that's sitting here in the church.
Someone who's there that supports you in good times and in bad.
Great. Someone who is there to support you in good times and in bad. Gratitude for your friendship. Lovely.
Someone who corrects you when you're wrong.
Someone
They're not afraid to tell you that you're doing the wrong thing, and that you can be away from the person for months or years at a time, and when you sit down together to chat, it's like you never separate.
Lovely, thank you, Lizelle. So somebody who is honest with you, who will tell you when you're messing up, and who is there for you, and that you can resume that friendship even if you're apart for a long time.
Somebody who still cares even when you're being a miserable bugger.
Okay, can I paraphrase that? No, I'll say it the way you said it. Someone who still cares about you even when you're being a miserable bugger. That was Barb.
Someone who listens to me when I need to vent or celebrates with me when I need to celebrate.
All right, so someone who listens to you when you need to vent or celebrates with you when you are celebrating. Thoughts from the people who are sitting in the congregation out here?
Friends walk into our lives and can leave footprints on your heart.
Okay, friends can walk into our lives and leave footprints on your heart. Lovely. Other thoughts about friendship? Pat. People who make you feel more alive. Wonderful. Any other thoughts? Someone at 9:15 said somebody that you can have a laugh with, you can have a good time as well. That in sharing those happy moments is really important, being able to laugh together. Wonderful. Karen.
Be together and share each other's friendship, as it were, in the good times, the bad times, and all the in-between times.
So somebody that you can be together with to share the good times, the bad times, and everything in between. Beautiful. All right, any other thoughts? Those online? Wonderful. Thank you for sharing those. Oh, one more, Roxanne. Oh, sorry.
Someone you can trust.
Someone you can trust.
We got one more up here.
And one more up here.
Someone with whom you can disagree amiably.
Someone with whom you can disagree amiably. Yeah, that's really important. Because we won't always have the same opinions, will we? So Roxanne's mom says, someone who lets you get your own way? Sometimes, sure. Sometimes. It's nice to have somebody who will let you do what you need to do, even though it might not be as comfortable for them. But maybe not all the time. Maybe not all the time. Wonderful. These are all wonderful ideas. And as we think about the ways that we are friends to one another on earth, then we can transfer some of that learning to how we are friends with God. It really follows beautifully from last Sunday's gospel when Jesus says, "You are my friends." Right? And so that honesty, that trust, that being able to be there with that friend through good times and bad, to have a good laugh. Jesus had a really good sense of humor too. I don't know that we always recognize that when we read the Bible, but he did. We have those moments that we can share with God. We have those times when we need to ask for forgiveness and when we're given forgiveness by that friend. Right? So all of those things are the work of being a friend, and it's something that we do continually need to work on, both with our human friends and with God, working on our friendship. And so I think of the end of the story of the Ascension in the book of Acts. All of the apostles are there looking up into heaven, and they're watching Jesus go up into the sky. And suddenly there are two men in white who are there, and they say, "What are you looking at?" They promise that Jesus will come back. But for right now, they have work to do. That why are you looking up into the sky is that kind of, remember, you've got work to do here. So let's continue to do that work of friendship with one another and that friendship with God.